I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer this question honestly. It's not about your company. It's not about your team. It's not about the quarter. Where are you going? You personally, in the next 3 years, where are you headed and why? See, if that question makes you uncomfortable just now, this video is for you, because I have sat with hundreds of senior leaders who can answer every hard question in their business, their organization, and go completely quiet when someone asks that question. My name is Raju Panjwani, 18 years at Morgan Stanley, the past decade working with senior leaders at technology and financial services firms around the world. And what I want to talk to you about today is something nobody in your organization is going to raise with you. How a person can be genuinely excellent at their job and have absolutely no idea where their own life is going. Let me tell you a story. About a year ago, I got a call from a senior executive who I had known for a while. He was at a large tech firm running a significant portfolio. His numbers were strong. He'd been asked to take on some more responsibility, an expanded role, but he wasn't calling to celebrate. He said, I feel like I'm on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. And I cannot remember who turned it on or why. I asked him, oh, when was the last time you made a decision about your own direction in life? Not a business decision, not a decision about where you personally were headed in the company, but where were you headed in your person? He was quiet for a long time. He then said, I think I stopped doing that somewhere around 2019, before COVID, I think. Now, he wasn't unhappy in the conventional sense. He was not burning out. He was performing at a high level, and he had completely lost the thread of his own life. How this happens? Well, here's the mechanism, because it is actually very specific. When you're running something at scale, execution becomes the entire job. Every day puts a fresh set of urgent problems in front of you, a client problem, a team problem, a revenue or cost number that needs your explaining, a decision that cannot wait. And you get very good at solving what is in front of you. And that is the job. I mean, you're doing it well for years and years, 20 plus years in this particular case. Well, what happens over time is that your horizon shrinks about what's going on in your life without you being aware. You get sharper and sharper, say the next quarter, the next 3 years. But the next 3 years, your 3 years, not the company's 3 years, start to blur. And little by little, with the blurring, they disappear entirely. And the reason you don't notice is that nothing in your environment actually is flagging it. Nothing interrupts it to tell you, here's a problem. Your management, your board is not asking you where you personally want to be in 3 years. Your direct reports, your team members need you to be present for the problems of that week. Your family, the people at home are so glad you're holding it all together. Nobody in that picture has any reason to ask you the question that you most need to be asked. So the question that I asked you earlier does not get asked, and years go by. So what does it actually feel like from the inside? I get it because I've been there. It doesn't feel like a crisis. Well, that's the thing. It doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like you're competent, which you are. You wake up, you handle what needs to be handled during the day. The day runs, the hamster wheel runs, like you described earlier. And then you go to sleep, and you're good to go again the next day. You're good at this. People rely on you. You deliver. The signal that something is off or not right is actually very subtle. It shows up in three ways, or in 3 moments. First, when someone asks you about the future and you answer entirely in terms of the organization or your career or the job, what the company is building, the new products, the new services, what the market's doing, but you're describing something very impersonal. Number 2, it happens when you're on a long flight, no Wi-Fi. No one's asking you for anything except your food order or drink order. Maybe you're over the Atlantic, maybe you're some other landmass, when this question surfaces because you have nothing occupying you. And you realize you don't have an answer. Not because you forgot it, but because you never really formed the question. And you get off the flight and life goes on. A third time when a little thing knocks on your consciousness is when a peer makes a move. One of your colleagues takes a different role, maybe within the company, or starts something new, or he steps away from something that he was doing, and your first feeling is not happiness for them or a competitive concern. It's a quiet envy that you do not want to look at because they made a choice about their direction. And you cannot remember the last time you did that. You see, it's unfortunate why smart people stop asking themselves this. At some point in most senior careers, direction becomes someone else's job. The board sets your strategy or the management. The market sets the pressure. Things are always happening. New things have to happen. Old things have to be let go. Leadership sets the targets. And your job is simply to execute those things. And you've been doing it for, as I said, maybe 20 years. And you become very good at it. But that handoff made sense at that stage in life. When you're building your skills, your track record, you take the direction that you're given and you perform. And you keep doing it better and better and better. The problem is that that handoff never gets reversed. No one comes back and says, hey, now is the time for you to decide where you're going the next 2 years, 3 years. The execution keeps coming though. And somewhere in the middle of a long run of high performance, the habit of choosing your direction starts to dissipate, quietly disappears. And what is left is a person who's extremely capable, completely unclear though about where they're actually headed. Here's what I'd like you to do this week. Not next week, this week. Today's Monday, this week. Block 60 minutes. Put it in your calendar the way you would put an important call or an important meeting. Take that hour somewhere away from your desk. No agenda, no laptop. Maybe your phone, maybe a notepad. A notepad's better in this case. And write down the answer to this one question. If the company did not need me to be anything in particular for the next 3 years, what would I be building toward? Now don't filter this answer. Do not make it reasonable, achievable. Do not solve it for, hey, I've done this before and I'm going to do it this way. No, this is completely new. No constraints. No constraints thinking. Just write what comes to mind. In my experience, most people find that the first 10 to 15 minutes, they produce nothing. Nothing comes easy. Take a little extra walk. It's very normal. The part of you that knows how to answer this question has never been consulted before in many years. And therefore, it's going to take a little moment for you to come back online. So by the end of the hour, though, I guarantee you something will be on that page. A few words. It may surprise you. It will almost certainly be different from the direction your organization is currently pointing you. For a minute, I'm not even suggesting that this is about leaving your job. No, that is not what I'm talking about. It's about just in some internal check. Because that difference that I'm asking you to identify is not a problem to solve immediately. It is information about the gap between where you are going and where you actually want to go. Where you're going and where you want to go. And what does that do? It's up something. The leader I just described at the beginning of this conversation, he went through this exercise. And what came out surprised him. He didn't want to leave his company. He loved being there. He did not want a smaller life, though. What he wanted was to be building something that he would recognize as his. A direction he had chosen. A destination that he could describe to himself in his own words, not what he was given. Now, he hadn't done that in years. And once he could see that clearly, the next conversation with his leadership became possible in a way that it was not possible before. Not a resignation, but perhaps a negotiation. He knew what he was asking for, but he finally knew what he wanted. Most of us have difficulty answering the question, what do you really want? And when you, basically that's the essence of the question, when you figure that out, the answers come to you. So that conversation that he had with his boss changed the shape of his future. Not because he had said all the right things, but because for the first time in a long time, he actually knew what he was trying to say. And I'm sure he's doing really well because he was set for the next few years in his direction. This is part of the habit you need to create for yourself. Okay, if that hour with the question sounds really harder than it should, then that is what's worth paying attention to. There's a link below here for a free 20-minute call. Come up with your answer to that question, even if it's not fully baked. Okay? Even if it's not fully baked, fully formed, it's okay. Book the call and we'll take it from there. Take care.